let's get this started. Little Friday, little Denver sports. What is up, everybody, and welcome into the Denver Sports Podcast presented by Breckenridge Brewery, and in particular, the unofficial beer of fall weather in Colorado. Did you guys know that's what the Avalanche Amber is? Unofficial beer of fall weather in Colorado.
Yeah, well, the same way that Strawberry Sky is the unofficial beer of summer.
There you go.
Right.
The Peach Palisade is the unofficial beer of spring.
There you go. I like that. Is that what it is? So what are we missing here?
Man.
So we got summer,
winter.
spring.
What's the official beer of winter?
I think it's the Vanilla Porter Jr. You got to have a dark beer in the winter.
Dark beer for the fireplace.
Yeah, dark beer for the fireplace.
For a second in the NFL draft, we thought the Broncos would draft a Porter Jr.
Really?
And that was,
Joey?
Oh, yeah. we were. Could you imagine all the Porter Juniors in this town? That would be incredible.
It would be incredible. I would be confused. Can you imagine if there was like a great hockey player named Elway?
Yeah, that'd be
Would
tough.
you be like just a little more inclined to root for a guy or less maybe? I don't know. I just think it'd be a little bit weird. We're not talking about that today, though. We're going to do in segment 1, we're talking Nuggets, who are tonight facing the Phoenix Suns in Game 3. I don't feel like it is a pivotal game, but it can be pivotal because if they win it, man, it sets up the greatest story of the year in Denver sports. We're also going to talk about the Avalanche and kind of where do they go from here, what happened to the season. We're going to get AJ's perspective on that. And then later in the show, I've got a bunch of really fun questions that we're going to go through that are somewhat inspired by current events, but we're going to talk about them more historically. And to help me do that, I got the homies along with me. Hat back. I got Andre Simone.
You know it. Real pleasure, Adam. Finally get to talk some Nuggets. Pretty hyped about these Nuggies. Yeah. I mean, mid-season, a little Euro preview of Italy, Serbia. I told you I thought the rookies would be the breakout. CB proving me right.
I love the guy that comes in right away and is like, I don't know if you guys remember, but last time I was here, I predicted the future.
That's right.
My guy Dre's going to remind you. And then, of course, from our Avs beat, it's AJ Haefele.
Do you guys remember when I was on the Nuggets draft show?
Did you tell us Christian Brown was going to be awesome?
And I told you he was going to be like a rotation guy and that he was just at least going to fit in.
I love it. Okay, so maybe we just turned this into a Christian Brown podcast today.
Should.
So we have some people seeing the future. No,
I mean, best revenge game of my life involved Kansas.
We're gonna
did not involve Christian Brown, but involved Kansas.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in segment 3. But I do want to start by just kind of giving some. I know that this audience, our hope is that it pulls in people from some different beats. So maybe you aren't totally plugged into what's going on with the Nuggets. So I'll give you a quick rundown. The Nuggets have been injured for 2 years. They got their guys back, namely Jamal Murray, but also Michael Porter Jr. They got the number 1 seed in the Western Conference for the first time in their entire NBA franchise history, which is crazy, 46 years.
Yeah.
They finally get the number 1 seed. They win the first round, so they limped into the playoffs because they were ahead by so much, kind of like the Avs last year. They limped into the playoffs, and some people thought this isn't a championship team. Smacked the Wolves in round 1. Then you go up against this Phoenix Sun team that got Kevin Durant in a trade mid-season, really more towards the end of the season. They have Devin Booker. They went to the NBA Finals 2 years ago. They're favorites to go back to the Finals last year before bowing out in the second round, kind of a surprise upset. So going into this game, Denver, being the 1 seed, with a 2-time MVP, was an underdog to the Phoenix Suns. It felt a little disrespectful. Insane. Nuggets also lost to the Suns 2 years ago in a sweep in a humiliating fashion. Got blown out by the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
So this felt like a little bit of a revenge series. First 2 games, Denver has absolutely... First game, they blew the doors off of them. A beatdown. Jamal Murray was transcendent. Game 2 was an ugly slugfest that somehow ended up with Denver covering the spread. Unbelievably, or is it beating the spread, Dre? Help me out here. They were favored by 2.5. They won by 10.
They covered the spread. They made it happen, yeah.
Covered the spread. So it's been 2 very impressive wins. I'm going to start with you, AJ. So that's the overview for people that don't know. I know I had you on a month ago, and you were talking about you do buy the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Where are you in relation to that, though? Is your stock rising with the Nuggets? Is it right where you expected?
Yeah, I think it's really hard to not feel really optimistic about them right now. Game 1 was kind of what I thought the series overall was probably going to look like, where it's 2 teams that when push comes to shove, they try and solve their problems with offense.
Yeah.
And that was going to be something that was very comfortable for the Nuggets.
Right.
Because that's what they do, and everybody has questioned their defense at every step of the entire season. And then I think that Game 2 showed up, and everybody wanted to, the whole, all you have to do to beat Jokic is to make him score. You take away his playmaking, make him score to beat you. And it turns out, 1, he's capable of doing that. So cool narrative. And then 2, they win a defensive struggle. They give up 14 points in the fourth quarter.
Something nobody thought they would be able to do.
Exactly. So they win the exact style of game that everybody said they couldn't win against a team that everybody is hyping up to be the real true top dog out west after the KD trade. And so now you're up 2-0 on them. You're going into their barn, and we'll see.
Right. Yep.
But I don't know how you feel anything but extremely optimistic about this Nuggets team, especially if they win Game 3 and they set themselves up to have an even series. They get to just watch as war plays out on the other side of the bracket, knowing that they're going to get maybe a more compromised version of the team that comes out of it, because they don't have to go through that.
Right.
If they win Game 3 and they go up 3-0, it sets themselves up for maybe a pretty quick exit out of round 2, and they get to just watch as all hell breaks loose between the Lakers and Warriors, and those teams scrap for the right to lose the next round.
And by the way, I'm not sure it's like a good side, bad side of the bracket, personally. The other side is battling each other, which to your point might lend to some rest. But Dre, what about you? Where are you at? We all have confidence in the Nuggets series by series, but at a certain point that turns to like, man, they might actually be able to do this. Are you there yet, or are you still kind of like, they're looking good enough to get past this round?
I'm there yet and still guard myself.
Okay.
Because I've had very many moments in my life where I've just kind of felt like, man, I don't think this team's ever going to do it.
Right.
Like I just think I'll live my whole life being a huge NBA and Nuggets fan and just never see my team go to the mountaintop.
Conference finals, baby.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, even that's just insane. Now, we will have to face some demons, Warriors, Lakers, if you get there and finally go into the finals, and whatever final matchup won't be easy. I can't not talk myself into this because I think they have the best player left in the playoffs, at least at full health,
Right.
They just have this trump card of the efficiency of their half-court offense, which in the playoffs is so key, just feels at another level from any of the other 7 teams left in this postseason. So that gives me some real reassurance that this might just be the team to do the unthinkable.
I hate how you hedged your best player take, because I'm curious.
Coward.
Well,
Coward.
The one thing I'll say,
Coward.
and look, the Nuggets, I did have this realization yesterday where I'm like, in my mind, Denver has been so dominant over Phoenix that in my mind, I'm just kind of like, I hope they sweep, but if not, it'll be fine. Like, in my head, I'm like, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm almost ahead of myself.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get there. But the one thing I'll say is that through 2 games, definitively, Nikola Jokic has been the best player in a series that features Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. And one game, Kevin Durant comes out and has 50 tonight to lead him to a win. I don't even know if that would pull him up to par for me right now with Jokic. It would be like, okay, he's coming back into the series a little bit. But to me, that's kind of a meaningful thing. I always wanted to see Jokic outplayed Kawhi Leonard in a series when Kawhi Leonard was healthy in there. Obviously had Paul George as well. Outside of that, it's been Damian Lillard. Spurs didn't really have some big names. Donovan Mitchell, who's a good player, but most people would have had Jokic ahead. So part of me is like, hey, this is kind of meaningful that I'm watching these 2 players go head to head. And one impacts every single possession on every play. And the other one has struggled with his shot, admittedly, but also just hasn't been the guy that you're like, oh my God, what's he doing? What's he doing? Like, I'm more interested in what Jokic is doing because it's louder at the moment. I mean, are you seeing the same thing here, AJ? And do you feel like there's another player that might be better than him in a series ahead?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you look down the road and you say if you get the Lakers and the Sixers, he's going to go, going one-on-one against DeAndre Ayton is one thing, right?
Right.
But going against Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid, especially the year that he wins the MVP, come on.
That's a great narrative.
It's a great story, and Anthony Davis, I think, is kind of, when he plays well, because you watch him in this postseason, and when he's been good, the Lakers win pretty easily.
Every other Davis.
Right, and he's a dominant player, and then when he's not, it's just like, well, he just kind of sucks, and now they lose.
Right.
And you don't ever really look at Jokic and have that conversation about, well, he was bad this game.
Right.
Like, even his not great games in this postseason have come with caveats that, oh, well, the Nuggets still won. It's
Game 1, he
So
was
what?
bad because he didn't make shots. He finished with 27, 19, and 5 or whatever it was.
Right. And it was like
and dominated the clutch.
For Jokic, it's inefficient,
Right,
which
right.
you know I understand in this version of the NBA is death, but it's like he has one of those games every 6 months. Like, give me a
Right.
break here.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, going against Anthony Davis, going against Joel Embiid in subsequent rounds would be a lot more of a it's on him. You know, it's his matchup. You know, going against a team that has KD and Booker, great. It's not his matchup though. You know, he's not spending a lot of time one-on-one against those guys. It's I think you look down that road, you see those two guys looming, and I do think it could be a little bit different. And it's an opportunity for him. It would be an opportunity for him to forever bury all of the narratives that I think probably cost him the MVP this year.
Dre, one thing that's interesting though is the Nuggets are dominating right now. They're 6-1 in the playoffs so far. Somehow still underdogs. They were underdog in this series. And then Lakers Warriors is getting historic ratings right now, rightfully so. Look, Lakers, everybody knows they get ratings. They got LeBron James. Warriors have Steph Curry. They've won a bunch over the last decade. I understand why the ratings are so high, but so much attention is on them that I feel like Denver could sweep this round and still be the footnote. And again, I think it's the perfect spot for the Nuggets. As much as we can like to complain and piss and moan about it, I kind of feel like Denver just constantly being under the radar is the best.
Can I just further this point?
Sure.
Just as somebody who loves consuming sports content every day, after game 2, so all of this,
it's been crazy, dude.
All
It's
of
been
this
crazy.
talk,
Holy shit.
about how the Nuggets can't win a defensive battle.
Oh, it's been nuts.
It's all about how they can't do this and Jokic can't get it done in the playoffs, and it's always been about what the Nuggets can't do.
Yeah.
And then they do something, and nobody talks about it. Because I went and looked. I'm one of like the 16 people left on Earth that has a Sports Illustrated subscription.
Really?
And true story. And it's because
Unlimited articles.
I am
three a month.
I am a voracious reader of
Yeah.
sports content. I subscribe to everything where I can read sports,
Yeah.
except The Athletic because those guys suck. So
Shots fired.
it's like I
They don't have a
consume-
Denver
so
people,
I
so what do we do?
consume
That's
all
it.
of this
That's it.
content, and I went looking to find a hype man in the national media
Yep.
for the Nuggets.
Yep.
And guess what I found? Nothing.
Hey, man.
I found nothing. I found people who were like, this is pretty cool. This is, oh, wow, that was surprising. I don't think the Suns can do this without Chris Paul. It was still through the lens of Phoenix.
Right.
And not through the lens of what Denver has done to put themselves in this position. And I think for me, I thought that was extremely telling. Because after both games of Philadelphia-Boston, there are all these grandiose think pieces that are coming out after each game where you're like, they don't even need, like, what's wrong with Boston? And Embiid-less 76ers just smoked them.
Right.
And then Embiid comes back and Boston bodies them. And it's like, well, what's wrong with Philadelphia?
Right.
And you're just getting these wild takes. And then obviously, as you mentioned, Warriors-Lakers. But I tried to go out and get hyped on some national content about the Nuggets
It's just not there.
winning a game that everybody spent all year being like, well, they can't win that game.
The funniest,
The defense doesn't exist.
when,
And
when
they
people
win it.
timestamped their pod, there was one I saw that was like, we talk Warriors Lakers at 3:55. We talk 76ers Celtics at 27:88.
Yeah.
We talk Knicks Heat at 45, whatever. And then it's like, we talk Nuggets at 58:30. It's an hour long pod. And you're like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
He started this with like, and it really is like, Nuggets Suns looks like it's over. This is big for KD, and you're just kind of like, okay, I guess we're not going to talk about it. But Dre, no, but seriously, under the radar though to me is like perfect, man.
Oh, it's perfect. These are the Jokic Nuggets. Under the radar is what they know, what they feel, and they will happily be the least talked about NBA champion this side of Toronto. I mean,
I'm like worried about getting ahead of myself.
I can't
He's over
even
here
think
already talking about the
I'm-
post-championship coverage.
I'm just saying, like, that's who this team is. That's who this team will always be. In some ways, we just need to embrace it. Because I'm like AJ, obviously I'm putting the post game on after that hype game, and I'm trying to listen to some national pods
Yeah.
that have been just, force feeding Suns talk this whole time. It's really like, it's just like a footnote, like, we got it wrong on the Suns. Move on. When it's like, you're just not seeing it with the Nuggets. But like this 8-man rotation's the story. How good Jamal Murray's back is the story. How good they are, and can play with MPJ's minutes is the story. Like there's so many amazing storylines with this Nuggets team, but they're just kind of getting ignored. And I think that's just fine.
I tweeted out before the series started that I thought it was fascinating that the national narratives had put the Nuggets in the position where they were the underdog to the Suns, but because of Jokic's individual success during the regular season, they would be a disappointment if they lost in this round.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And it was like
It's a lot of knots to tie in.
Well, and it was like how can you be these mutually exclusive things at the same time? How can you exist in this universe? You put this team here, and the only way that they can break out of any of that is to just keep winning.
Well, Dre, if we get into some analysis here, what do you need to see from the Nuggets still in the series or maybe in this playoffs? Are there some unchecked boxes in your opinion?
No, I just think it's, sustaining this level of play from the entire 8-man rotation. I think the big thing that we need to still uncover is how good can those kind of auxiliary players be on the road. This is a big spot in Phoenix.
Is Michael Porter auxiliary player to you? Is he in that? Were you thinking of him when you said that?
No, I think he's more of a core. To me, there's like a core 4 and then the others, know? So to me, Mike's part of that core 4 who I trust on the road. I just think Mike's wired like that where it's like, whatever, it doesn't matter what building we're in. Mike's going to shoot. His teammates are going to trust him like he's going to make them. But KCP, CB, Jeff Green, Bruce, obviously. Yeah. How can those guys keep raising their level? And then, the opponents will get tougher.
Yeah.
I'm as much as I'm leaning into the national guys we just criticized. I do think like the Suns weren't as good as advertised.
Right.
I'd like to see
they haven't looked at it all yet.
Right.
Even in the first round.
Right. So I need to see some real tests,
Right.
And maybe these Nuggets are just too good and
maybe they'll make everybody look bad.
Maybe they'll just feel like everyone's as good as
the Suns did win in 5. It was an unimpressive 5 games.
Right.
Well, and just like with so many of their postseason series wins the last few years.
Right.
Who's not playing for the other team?
AJ, not so many. Literally every single one.
Yeah.
Every single one. It's a very weird thing, but every single series was down one starter of the teams they beat. The 2 that weren't, Dallas, Milwaukee. The 2 that beat them. There's something to it. But what about you let's go back to Nuggets here, because I thought, for me, the easiest unchecked box is Jamal Murray. The guy looks like a superstar every other game.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, hey, at some point, he's either going to do this or not. And the Nuggets get away with it right now because, to your point, I do think the Nuggets are a better team and have more pieces. Maybe that tracks all the way through, but I think at some point you need a guy that shows up at least 5 out of 7, 6 out of 7.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, like, it's 50-50 what we get from Murray tonight, I feel.
You need it. Because that can't continue.
You have to have it.
Yep. And the combination of Murray and MPJ, you can't do that again.
30 plus, or do you need him to be the like dog in that 2-man pick and roll?
No,
I think there's varying levels of you need it. You
look at late game what Murray does running the offense, where he's finding Jokic and they're scoring still, and he's controlling things. Great. I don't care who scores it, man.
Right.
It doesn't matter to me. As long as you're running an efficient offense, he could finish with 0 points and 0 shots and 25 assists for all I care.
Yep.
I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. It just does. Running the offense matters. And if that's his job, if that's what he's going to do, do it. And if, we've seen at their best, though, him running the offense just happens to include him occasionally going nuclear.
Right.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't mind a few for nuclear explosions, though. And part of this is like, I think Murray, one, struggles with conditioning, and I think he struggles with pressure. Like, not pressure as in the moment, but pressure as in when guys get physical and into him. I think he doesn't draw fouls at a good enough rate, and he's not super quick to punish that. So to me, that's what I want to see. And tonight's going to be a great opportunity. I think that the Phoenix Suns will get a good whistle. I mean, they're due. They're at home.
Yeah.
I think they'll get a good whistle, and I think that they'll be very physical with him. And I just want to see, like, man, go into that building and have an all-timer.
Right. I mean, because they can do all that, but who are they doing with
Right.
Campaign and Okogie? Like,
Yeah.
if you want to
Torrey
be
Craig
that
would be
guy,
my
you
pick,
gotta
but-
right. And Torrey in Phoenix, wouldn't be surprised if he was like 3 of 6 from 3
Right.
tonight.
They're gonna shoot better tonight.
That's
I
where they're
think.
role players. You expect to raise their level. Our role players might lower their level a little,
Right.
and that'll even it out. That's where you need MPJ. That's where you need Jamal Murray to show up in a big way. But still, you need like 3.5 games per series.
You think that's it? 3.5?
Yeah, man. That's
Man,
really all you
no.
need.
I think you need 5.
Yep.
I think you need 5, and you might need 6 against certain matchups, man. Here's the thing: this consistency is the hardest thing to come by.
Mm-hmm.
But at a certain point, it's just you're either that or you're not. There's a lot of players that go
Yeah,
off every 3 games. But a guy that can be consistent, like, no, man, you have to guard us every night of this. I mean, Jokic every night.
Oh,
Murray
well.
needs to be more or less every night. They're like, crap, man, we have to slow him down. We can't let him going. Right now, I just don't feel like that's it. So for me, that's a major box for them to check. And Murray can go a long way in this series. Because I promise you, if they go up against the Lakers, the matchup is for Murray. They're not going to have a lot of guys that can check him. I think they would put Jared Vanderbilt on him, which is
Right,
very interesting.
right.
Can't let that work, man. You can't.
No, you're
you
right.
can't let an out of position guy guard you there. You got to punish him. And Yoke's going to have a beast in Anthony Davis to handle.
Right.
That has to be a Murray series. If you go to the other side, you're going toe to toe with Steph Curry.
Yep.
He's going to outplay you. He's one of the guys you could argue is the best player alive, but he can't be whatever he was in this game. Or Nuggets are losing by 30. So this last one. So. Those are big boxes for
Well,
me.
he's
to check.
got to hunt Curry, make him work on the defensive end like
Have to.
crazy in that kind of series. Yeah, you're right.
Have to be able to. Just real quickly, what's your prediction, AJ, for this series?
Oh man, you're gonna make me predict the future.
Yep.
I think it's a gentleman's sweep. I think it's 5-1 or 4-1.
I think that
I
sounds
think
the
a
most likely.
5-game series is probably.
Them losing Chris Paul to me, I'm very curious to see what happens because I think Denver is going to be able to figure out what their weaknesses are
Yeah.
long term.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these are implied. Denver's going to have a game plan for, okay, where do they go? But I also think in this game, they're going to find some stuff in the tape when they go back and look at it and be like, this is where we're going to have to force the ball. This is what we're going to force them to do. And I think Denver can really put pressure on them in that way. But if you get the win tonight, you might odds of the sweep go skyrocketing. What's your prediction?
Become huge. I think it's 5-1. I think they win game 3, lose game 4, and take care of business in 5.
That sounds like
I
the
would have had it
Nuggets.
flipped. I would have had them losing game 3. That's always the game that I think that the team they're especially down 2-0.
Oh, it's backs
a team.
against the
A
wall
team
time.
is absolutely like monstrous, hyped
Oh,
up. Home crowd is going to be absolutely crazy. And if you could take them out of it early, great. But it's basketball.
I'm very curious to see what it looks like tonight. I will say, in the Minnesota series, they went up 3-0, and I think they lost motivation just because
Yep.
it's hard. You're
Yep.
up 3-0. It's
Yep.
hard to match
Yep.
that energy, and they still almost went to overtime. I don't think if they get themselves in that scenario, I don't think that happens in Game 4. They got swept 2 years ago. Returning the favor to me would be all the motivation that group needs to be like, you know what? It'd be a lot cooler if we did.
It'd be also the
That gets
ultimate
me
power move
hyped.
of game 4 if Jokic got thrown out of that one too. And they still sweep.
Just as a little early
Yep.
X. Maybe they're up so much that he can get thrown out at the end and just kind of wave to the crowd on
He
his
can
way
body
to the tunnel.
slam Campaign again. And it'll be great.
It's all I can think of when I see Campaign is that poor little guy. You know, he really got it last time. He really got it.
All right, let's take a break. On the other side, I want to talk about some Avs. Where do they go from here? And get AJ's perspective on what exactly went wrong this season.
It's Nuggets finals season, Nuggets playoff season. We're calling it, Adam. But it's also Illegal Pete's beers on the patio season. That's right,
That is
baby.
true. It is.
Just a block away from the DNVR Bar, you can get a house beer bucket for you and all the homies, the whole crew. 5 refreshing 16-ounce beers for $15. Doesn't get much better than that. I'm a huge fan of outdoor drinking. I don't love drinking, but the outdoorness of it is just amazing. It's what I loved as a kid. I grew up in Italy, so I'm allowed to say that. And
You have an Italy pass?
I got an Italy pass. I can talk about drinking as a kiddo. That's right.
But
Soak up the
specifically
sun.
outdoor drinking in Italy
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
is
that's
where
all-
it's at.
it's also
Indoor drinking in
legal.
Italy is
come on,
for the
come
birds.
on.
What a
We've all
lovely
drank
third grade
indoors.
memory
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
I said a kid, not third grade. Get a loaded burrito. Get yourself a beer bucket, a crisp beer on the patio. at Illegal Pete's. You pick your location. We prefer ours on Koufax. It's your go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beers. And of course, shout out to the homies at Game Time. If you've seen people from DNVR find ways to go to Nugs and Avs games last second throughout the entire playoffs, it's all been thank you to the Game Time app, which gives you the best deals on last second tickets. Sadly, I know of even a Phoenix Suns fan that found tickets to Game 1. And Nuggets Nation, you made it so that they did not feel comfortable at the game. Great job, everyone. Just like Nuggets Nation, Game Time will take care of you with the best deals. And right now, today on TDSP, we're giving away our game of the week to get at Game Time. Look, we could go Rockies, you know. I mean, I just talked about
I don't think we can.
Outdoor drinking, you know.
I don't think we can't go game of the week.
You could appeal.
For the game of the week for the Rockies, you just have to check the weather app.
Oh, there you go. That's
is
the
that
strategy.
too mean for Denver Sports Podcast,
No,
AJ? Is that too mean?
I think frankly,
They're like, oh, look at that, 75. What a good Rockies game that'll be.
Unnecessary.
Sorry.
So unnecessary.
If it was a gentleman's
I love the
sweep,
Rockies.
though, go to Game
But,
5. Game 5 at Ball Arena, under $80. You can find tickets right now.
That's
Because
I'm
Denver
offended.
knows.
I'm
you
a little
know.
offended, honestly, by these prices on Game Time app. I'm
Oh
a
my
little
God.
offended. They're a little lower than I want those
Where is
prices
the
up.
playoff spike? The Avs had that playoff spike. The Nugs.
AJ, would you be
It's a little more
offended
hit
by
or
like
miss.
the Avs playoffs tickets being like ridiculously low?
Yeah, of course.
You'd be like, what the hell, guys? Bump
Yeah.
these prices up. I want these to be $1,000.
Yeah, exactly. You know, watching people think about taking out second mortgages
Yeah,
last year
just to be able to go.
so they could go to a Cup final game was
Hey,
kind of
man.
comical for me.
Might be worth it. All right,
I paid
Download
rent
that
like a
Game Time
peasant.
app, create an account, and use that code DNVR for $50 off your first purchase. Do it and get in on our Game of the Week. We're saying it, Game 5, Nugs, Game 5 against the Suns. Come in, make more Suns fans feel like they don't belong while we eliminate them. Let's do it.
All right, let's talk some Avs now who a little bit of a disappointing year. Actually, I should say a fully disappointing year. Tons of injuries. AJ, if you could just summarize quickly what you think went wrong with the Avs this year in their title defense.
Are you familiar with Sisyphus?
Of course.
That?
The rock just kept rolling down?
Yep. And it was just the universe. I mean, you thought that once they got to the postseason, they were going to be relatively healthy, just compared to regular season. And as this in a 7-game series, they had a guy get hurt. You know, it starts with ruling out of Landeskog. He's not going to play in the postseason. Has a whole press conference. The whole thing is incredibly depressing. Game 1, the Avs have their lineup set. A guy gets hurt in warmups of Game 1. Now he's out of the lineup. Somebody else is in. Fine. It's your 6th defenseman. You're not ultra concerned about it. But it was just kind of once again, a thing that happened, right?
Feel like an omen at the time?
At the time, it was just kind of like, are you kidding with us? And then now when you look back on it, you're like, yeah. Game 3, Valdichushkin isn't going to play. Well, what's going on with Valdichushkin?
Oh.
He has left the team for personal reasons. Misses games 3 through 7.
Man.
Just gone. Kale McCarr gets suspended in Game 5. You know,
Yeah.
Josh Manson gets hurt and misses the tail end of the series, which I say gets hurt. He re-aggravated the same injury that he had been battling leading up to the start of the postseason. So he was never even 100%. And when you watched him play, it wasn't even that close to 100%. He might not have even been 60%. He was seriously compromised. And the Avs just were not built. And I would say no team in the NHL is built for that.
Yeah.
No team in sports of any sport is built to withstand that level of attrition. They were one of the very few teams since the stats started getting tracked back in 2000 They were one of the only teams that ever had more than 450 man games lost and won their division. And that felt like a major accomplishment when they did it, but you're also like, hey, like you're worried about other things here. Like
it's also not that cool of a record. It's one of those ones you don't want.
It's a cool, but winning the division is a thing that you care about.
Yeah.
You know, and it felt like as the series with Seattle was going on, they couldn't get anything to go right. That nothing in game was going right, and there was no better encapsulation of that than Game 7 itself, where the Avs outplay the Kraken easily by a wide,
shooting them 2-1 through the first two periods.
Wide margin. They outshoot them 16-6 in the first period, and they get scored on it with an own goal that takes 2 deflections off 2 different Avs players and goes into their own net. It's absurd. It's absurd what happened.
As a hockey dummy, because this was true last year even of the Avs, I just feel like they always outshoot their opponents. Do they take worse shots? Is there? I understand that there's something to... but sometimes I watch them, I'm like, man, they've got double the amount of shots.
They didn't in this series. Pretty much whoever won the shot advantage won the game in that series until Game 7.
Yeah.
Game 7 was the only game in the series where one team clearly outplayed the other and lost the game. And that's just how hockey works sometimes. It's just how it goes. I mean, it is what it is. You know, it's one of those things that it happens in hockey.
Right.
It's one of the things that makes hockey so great and so unpredictable is that randomness and luck are giant determining factors every single game.
Yeah.
Things just happen in those games that are not true of the other sports in general.
Dre, how much are you watching Avs?
It's a goal sport. I mean, I watched the entire postseason. This was a tougher regular season to get into. It was
because of the
like,
injuries. And
I'll tune in when we get going. And it was always like, man.
Yeah.
So, you'd watch the bigger divisional matchups and what have you. It was just, I think the last few years, that build up from being, the bottom dweller of the entire NHL to then being in the postseason and then actually being a division contender and then a contender out west and actually being disappointed with, to finally winning it all to then this year was kind of just a letdown. I mean, as AJ's talking for a second, I thought, boy, there's almost some like Suns analogy and being more top heavy and relying on your stars. But then, I mean, so many things went wrong. It was just like comical.
They finished the season with just a shade over $20 million of their lineup just not available to them.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, their captain being out the entire year, that's more similar to what the Nuggets went through the last 2 years with no Jamal or
it's MPJ, a lot more analogous to that, is that they just never really got a chance from the jump.
Right.
Landy was out from the first day of training camp, and it was like, well, we'll see, and whatever. But they just never once felt like they're here to defend their title. And I would say if they actually get healthy over the summer and Landeskog, we get clarity on what's going to happen with Landeskog, whether that's he comes back next season or not, we don't know. He's deciding on treatment options right now. Hopefully we find out here pretty soon what he decides to do. But if that happens, all y'all look out, man. Because
that's where I wanted to go with this. Like,
it's extremely exciting still in Avalanche land. It's just hard right now because it felt like you never got out of first gear.
Two guys don't make a team, but I do feel like Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon to me, I'm just always like, hey, something can happen. You have these guys. But what else, like, kind of tell me the story on this team. Like, what are the big decision points now that go into the offseason? And can this team realistically be as good as they were?
Yeah, as good as they were is going to be hard because the team that won the Stanley Cup was... Had they given a shit at all in the final 10 games, they could have had a top 10 regular season of all time and then gone 16-4 in the postseason. You would have been talking about one of the wire-to-wire greatest NHL teams ever.
By the way, real quick, as an aside, Boston losing in the first round, did they do the 73-win Warriors thing where they pressed too hard in the regular season for a record?
Every single one of us, all the hockey diehards, had Boston losing before the conference final.
Crazy.
All of us. Because no team ever in the modern era has ever had that caliber of regular season and made a conference final.
Really?
You just don't get to live like that in the hockey world.
I don't want to spend too much time on that one.
Bad things happen to you when you spend 6 months living large. And that's what happened to Boston. Their best player, one of their best players, gets hurt in the first round and is not healthy throughout it. And they play an extremely talented team that was lying dormant for most of the regular season. So that was a gigantic upset, but not one like all of the hockey homies that I see in chat right now will be like, yeah, we didn't pick Boston to go deep anyway.
Interesting. That's interesting. Well, tell me, all right, what are the decision points for the Avs?
So they don't have a ton of money. Some of it will depend on Landeskog because if they get his money to spend, they obviously have $7 extra million to spend on players, but they will also need to replace him. You'd just rather have him.
Okay.
But they need a second line center. Like
if you take the emotion out of it real quick, the emotion of Landeskog, that part, would you rather have the $7 million?
No, God, no.
So he's significantly better than the money, whatever you'd replace.
Whatever
him with.
you're going to think you're going to spend $7 million on in free agency is not going to be Gabe Landeskog. You would rather the on ice play, the two-way play, the goal scoring, all of every single thing that you looked at and said the Avs lacked in round one is embodied by Gabe Landeskog.
Well, the leadership.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even get into that to the intangibles. Oh my God.
Okay. So you need Landy.
You need Landy.
Okay.
But you need a 2C. You need a second line center. JT Compher was ill fit for that job. If you're a part of our Discord channel, everybody likes to post the picture of when I said he was going to cost them a playoff series. I feel like I was correct. 2 points in 7 games, and he got absolutely crushed every single night. He was deeply, deeply negative player in that series.
Yikes.
In terms of shot metrics, not plus minus.
What are the chances of finding a 2C?
Good. They've got assets to do it. There's lots of different options. There's always teams that suck that are trying to talk themselves into different eras.
Do you have an early name that you like that's kind of your early horse?
Where I would like for them to start is in Winnipeg with that floundering franchise, which just happens to...
Oh, man.
Sorry, babe. But it just
is he downvoting the show as we go? Like, oh no, he just got a down thumb.
It just happens to be that they need to blow it up and move on. They've got 2. Pick one. I don't care which one. I don't have a strong feeling about which one. I would start there. There's Ryan O'Reilly's going to be a free agent. You can bring him back for the feel-good story of the reunion and all these different things, but he would be a perfect fit there as well.
The man who was traded originally for JT Compher, right?
Yeah, correct.
We come full circle.
Yeah, do you have a name of somebody, Dre, that you were kind of like...
I mean, I wish we could redo the last year's free agency and try to give Kadri that kind of money, but that's not how life works.
Yeah,
right?
all this we should have kept Kadri stuff is just... It's unrealistic. They were never going to give a 32-year-old player a 7-year contract.
Yeah.
That was never going to happen. It's why they're not going to trade for him in the offseason. It's done. If Kadri wanted to stay in Colorado, he could have. He could have. Right. They had various 4- and 5-year deals that they had talked through that they could have maybe found some. He would have had to give up a ton of money.
Right. He just played way too well that final year to warrant it at all.
Exactly. The whole Kadri thing is a total revisionist history and a complete misreading of absolutely everything about the reality of the salary cap. They were never going to keep him under any realistic circumstance. It was not possible. They're not going to trade for him this summer. He has 6 years to go on that contract.
I hear everything you're saying. I'm still going to hold out hope for it. Just sometimes it's fun to be the dumb fan that's like, I don't know, I liked Kadri, and even if it doesn't make financial sense in the least, it is literally impossible.
So good.
I understand people, because I can tell you're frustrated. I do this stuff too. Like, Nuggets are going to lose Bruce Brown this year, and not because they don't want him and not because they're cheap, because they literally can't bring him back.
Yeah,
but I also understand when fans are like, come on. I'm like, I know, man, I know. But literally, we can't.
You want the guy to love playing here so much that he's like, sure, I'll leave $20 million on the table.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Especially in hockey. The money's not the same.
Why would you ask a guy to give up $20 million? Right. Like, it's not fair. He's earned that money.
In the NBA, there's guys that have made $400 or $500 million. That's you're like 20. What are we doing here? And it happens. But in hockey, like, come on, the money doesn't last as long.
Those are contract years. Like, but Kadri, Bruce, they're having great seasons.
They're kind of similar. They're kind of similar. Like really firecracker type guys.
I'm not. No.
Why not?
He's not accepting it.
Why are
Kadri's a different tier of star, huh?
Oh, is that why? Okay.
Yeah, well, Kadri, I mean, they're just such different guys. Like Bruce Brown is like your like, see, the system works. Look at this guy. He's continuing to rise. And he's doing all these things. Nazem Kadri was a top 10 pick and a top line center, and he was
meaningfully different.
Yeah, way different paths to where they ended up being fan favorites. And like everybody remembers Kadri fondly because he didn't come back. If he came back and he had if he had a 55-point year this year and he scored 18 goals, everybody would have been losing their minds about how they made the wrong decision to keep him and how they needed to move on and they needed to recognize that he was old and he was never going to do that again and blah, 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 blah.
But he gave us
because
some of my
fan
favorite
loyalty
moments.
is to the team and the team only.
Yeah, that is very true. All right, what else? Is there another...
Yes, it's just a 2C,
it starts
getting
at
healthy
Landy
and
and
just
it starts with
Landy and Val out.
It really starts with, so Val will be back. His career's not in jeopardy. I'm not sure why this has been a talking point. I know that it's, well, we don't know where he is, so we're just filling in the blanks on our own. He should be back. There shouldn't be anything keeping him long-term from returning to the team. Life is life, and you never know how it's going to go, but he should be back. He should be okay. Landeskog to be determined. You need the 2C. And then after that, you have to rebuild your whole bottom six. But these are all like, it's just not very hard to do. Make good choices. Colorado's been absolutely nails at this over the last few years of finding the right depth pieces and mixing and matching. And they've done a wonderful job of it. You have to let JT Compher go. He's going to make too much money in free agency. You can't afford to give that guy $5.5 million. Try and keep Evan Rodriguez around if you can. Just my personal, I would love to keep him around. And maybe play him in a more proper role next year as a middle six guy and not on your top line half the year.
Right.
You do that, and I think you'll be pretty happy with the results.
Are you optimistic these things happen in some form or fashion?
Yeah, I feel great about the offseason. That the front office has been extremely good over the last several years.
Arguably the best front office in all the major four sports.
Well, and when people get upset about this front office and they need to fire McFarland and this and that, you keep in mind that the team that just finished its season spent 0 seconds on the ice together as the team that was built. The team that was built to defend the cup never once was healthy enough and got a chance to actually do so. So before you think that firing people who built a champion a year before is the move, maybe consider that those things are true. So if the front office hasn't earned at least 1 year of leeway after winning a Stanley Cup and 3 division titles in a row and a President's Trophy all within the last 3 seasons, give me a break with this, man. What are we doing here?
Coming from being the worst team in hockey.
Yeah, like these are all the same guys who built this team, this organization from dead last.
Yeah, but you know what though, AJ? Hold on though, man.
Mountain.
You know something? Steve Kerr, Greg Popovich, Danny Ainge. I hear fan bases complain about everybody.
Dude.
Greg Popovich, Steve Kerr. I can't believe they're not running more pick and roll. They're running this dumb system. Then they win the title next year with their dumb system. It just happens. Every fan base wants to complain.
Belichick's under fire these days. It's like, can't figure out a quarterback. It was just Brady. It's like, doesn't matter what you've done for 20 years. Couple losing seasons and
it's
no
wild.
one cares,
but that's
man.
sports. That's what makes it so. What makes it so
They
fun.
haven't had that fall from grace
insanity
though.
of
They won the
fans.
division with 465 man games lost. I cannot stress to you how rare that is. The
Only
fact
happened.
that you're talking about 5% of teams that have had that many man games lost in the last 23 years. 5% of teams make the postseason, not win their division.
Just
make the postseason.
No.
For them to have won the division was a real accomplishment, and I will fight people to the death.
Don't fight me. Let's take a little break here. On the other side, my favorite part of the show. I've got some questions that are going to open up some debate.
I can't wait.
Jog us down memory lane.
I can't wait.
And I have one question in particular that AJ is going to completely ignore.
Oh no!
I can't wait. One he doesn't. He's not going to want to put brain power towards. I can't wait for
This
it.
is amazing. Please
no.
tune in. Call in the wifey. This is going to be a fun second segment. But first, enjoy a Breck Avalanche Ale. We called it the official beer of fall.
Fall weather.
At DNVR. Fall weather.
Because sometimes we get some
Let's
fall
get
weather in the
into it.
spring. Still a great time to open up the beer.
That's how, The spring sometimes is more like just alternating vanilla porters and strawberry skies, and we want an Avalanche Ale type of mid-season. What did we agree was the spring beer?
Strawberry Sky. No, that's the
Summer.
Yeah, the Palisade Peach.
Palisade Peach. Yeah.
There you go, Palisade Peach.
You could also switch
Of course,
those if you really wanted to.
enjoy any of those seasonal beers. We call them seasonal because we're having fun. You can have them year round. Enjoy a DNVR Breck Avalanche Ale. Of course, that Colorado nice brown ale. Only Breck has it on the market anymore. And you're trying to find it. We've got the legend Svetislav from Sombor proper in the chat. I don't think it'll work for Svetislav in Sombor, but if you are in the United States, get on that beer local. Exactly. breckbrew.com to find a beer near you. And then we're very excited for a new partner, Circle K. Big Circle K guy over here. Stop at the gas station, put in my phone number, get a little discount on some candy.
Best coffee. Best gas station coffee.
Special edition Mountain Dew that they have.
Rack up those points. Special edition Mountain Dew.
What is it? Just a special can, or is it a special flavor?
No, it's a special flavor that only gets sold at Circle K.
What is it called? Do you remember?
Thunder something. Yeah.
All right, Thunder something.
He's gonna get something.
All right.
Adam's a big believer in a lot of good things, and then the junkie drinks he can't resist.
I can't resist them, man.
All at Circle K, where they also have the best coffee. In my older age, enjoying a good corn nut. That's a snack you guys have here in this country, right?
Yeah, new flavors of that out recently too.
There you go. That's right. That's what Schwan Man will ask me. What do you like? Because he's big into the ranch ones. Just like a good classic, a nice salty, crunchy corn nut. Nothing like it from
Great
Circle K. They're the homies, man. They'll take care of you. And just check them out. Go there, fill up with gas. And thanks to Circle K for sponsoring DNVR. Visit the nearest Circle K near you.
There you go. Do the Shady Rays one too.
Yes, Shady Rays. Look at these beautiful shades we have on set. As I drop them, look at that. Some real Miami Vice vibes. This is what Yoke, after hurting one of the Morris twins, going to Miami,
One of the Morai.
trouncing the Heat with none of them doing anything, and then going to a club in Miami. This is the vibe that outing, these glasses have that vibe. I actually love these. I hate that we use them as a prop on set all the time, because I would gladly just take these and make them my own, and they pair so nicely with my pins and aces.
It's very Don Johnson.
Dude, Shady Rays, insane deals. I love companies like this that can give you that designer, high-end quality. The lenses are outstanding. They're actually really nice with these dumb camera lights, but they give it to you at half the price because they are not, they're not part of the whole big model deals that I was exposed to in Milan. No, Shady Rays, they've got you taken care of. Buy one, get one free when you use code DNVR. They're already half the price of what you'd pay for designer glasses. Now you cut that price in half on top of it using that code DNVR. Great styles, great deals. And then, you lose them, you break them. They've got you covered on that as well. Check them out. Use that code DNVR.
Alrighty, back here. Final segment. I'm excited. I want to start doing this on TDSP all the time because they're like general sports questions that are a little bit topical.
Love this.
My first one, Kale, bring it up. What do we got? What's the best giveaway you've ever gotten at a game? Now, this is the season of giveaways, you guys.
Yeah.
You go to a playoff game and there's what's it going to be? Are you going to get a towel or are you going to get this or that? Kale, I sent you a couple links. Can you go ahead and pull those up for me? The first one is the Nuggets' towel from game 2 of round 1. Let's take a look at this one. What do we got here? Zoom in on that one so we can take a look. Now, here's the problem with the Nuggets. They always do the thing. They brought "Bring It In" as a slogan, which I don't really love. I just felt that's a very soft, corporate sounding slogan. It's not bold. You're not telling somebody, the other team's oh, you better be careful of coming into Ball Arena. Bring it in. We're ready to bring it in, man. It's soft. And then the worst part is it says there's some sponsor under there, I think it's Western Union. And so if you take this home in 10, 15 years, the Western Union just sticks out, man. I like the idea of novelty things. Let's go through a couple more real quick here. I sent you another one. The shirt from game 1. Again, it looks a little corporate-y. Bring it in. And then it's got, again, Western Union. Like, all right. Is that a shirt you wear proudly around town? It's kind of like you put it on at the game, and you might not wear that again outside of the house.
It's more a collector's item.
But is it?
It's like
again,
if it's a lit game.
do you pass that on to your child? Or you're like, I was at game 2, Nuggets-Wolves, and this shirt reminds me of that game every time I look at it. To me, it feels more like a shirt you get at a festival for free because you signed up for a bank.
Yeah,
like,
fair enough,
something like that. All right, what else we got? Last one here. Or I got 2 more. Let's look at some other teams' giveaways. Gold-blooded. These ones, I believe, designed by Ronnie Gold. They've been going with this phrase, no sponsor. And again, designed by a local artist. I kind of like them, other than the fact that they're yellow.
Those are sick.
And then last one. Did I send you another one or no, Kale? Yep. Just do the picture of the Suns one, because I think there's 3 pictures. And I think, look at that one. Again, no sponsor. Matt Ishby, a new owner, putting a kind of a cool, unique design that, to me, this looks like something you would give to your child in 20 years and be like, look at this. This comes from a special moment of memory. So, all right, Dre, what's the best thing you've ever gotten? It doesn't have to be a playoff shirt. It could be something else. But what's the best giveaway you've ever gotten?
I think it's probably a pom-pom for the watch parties here at the DNVR
Bar.
Bar.
It's us!
Yeah, it's us. It's us.
DNVR, you know what? We should do
playoff
that.
pom-poms. Those are dope, man.
Next
I still
year's
have it in my
playoffs,
car.
our giveaways at the bar will surpass the ones that give it out by the Nuggets or Avs.
We just established that the standard is pretty mid.
It's pretty low,
Pretty mid.
Give out a signed rubber band. It might be a little bit better.
Absolutely. I do think that's the best I've gotten, though.
AJ, do you have one?
I was hopeful that this was the one you didn't think I was going to put brain power into.
This is the one I thought you were going to hate.
Yep.
Because you're not a big on like little sentimental items or knickknacks or whatever.
No, dude. When I moved last year, I threw everything I owned away. I don't care.
All right. Well, I'll carry this. I'll carry this question then. When I was a child, I think everybody. I was born in 1984. I think everybody born in 1984, 83 to 86, grew up around the same age where Mutombo was a player when you were about 10 years old. I got a Mutombo poster for going to one of the Nuggets games that was life size. It actually wasn't. But you were supposed to hang it a certain amount from the ground, and then it would go up to 7 feet or whatever. And I think every person I know, all of my friends had that one in their bedroom growing up because everybody got it when you went to a game. Cool. And I think those things are actually important, AJ. This is why I knew you weren't going to like it, but I feel like they're important. That might be why I'm a Nuggets fan. Because I went to one game at 10 years old, got a poster, and then that lingered, right? I got a guy hanging up on my wall. Man, you guys are really into it. All right. Well, anyway, I think giveaways are cool. I think totems are cool. Light the Beam to me was the coolest thing that happened this year in the NBA. I just think those things.
Not a Light the Beam.
You're anti-Light the Beam. AJ,
no, lighting the beam is cool. I'm okay about that.
Okay,
we're cool there.
I was going to say, what is this brand you have for yourself?
All these giveaways are just, I don't care, man.
You don't think there's a young kid out there that if they gave away
I think the pom-poms at Avs games are cool when they do it all at the same time. It simulates an avalanche, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. It's just kind of the same thing every year, and you're just like, all right.
If you're a kid and you got an Avs sticker or something, if you got that like as an 8-year-old at your first Avs game, to me it's like, that's how you make a lifelong. You get a little hat or some dumb thing. And
I'm not saying don't do them.
I'm just saying, as me as a human being at this stage of my life, I don't care.
Oh man, I care deeply. All right, what's number 2? Which pro sport has the best rivalries? Which one generates the best rivalries, or does the best job of generating? I think rivalries?
It's all of them. It's pro athletes versus common sense. Because you watch so many guys like Ja Morant try and throw everything away by being idiots.
Impressive way to steer this one towards that. That's impressive.
Well, because I mean, you're talking about guys that go from usually not a lot of means growing up, and then having everything that you could possibly imagine financially. And then being an idiot and throwing it all away.
Yeah.
So many of the athletes do this stuff because they just can't handle that transition. So I think it's for
interesting rivalry.
Athletes versus common sense is number 1 for me.
In the spirit of the question, though, Dre, which league do you think generates the best rivalry? I mean, here's the thing: Suns to me are a rival because of what happened a few years back.
Yeah.
But if you ask the average person, they're like, what's the relationship? Even Phoenix is like, are you guys a rival? Though maybe we'll be after this series, but it's not a good rivalry.
And it is kind of like the personal rivalries is what drives sports now. It's not so much the team rivalries. Like I think in college you still have those team rivalries, but I'm trying to think. I think it used to be the NFL. I think we've moved into it being the NBA.
You think so?
The beefs and the encore rivalries feel more personal, might be more engaging. Like the NFL, we had Manning Brady. That felt like it mattered. Like I don't feel like Josh Allen Mahomes. And again, it's like quarterbacks who don't play directly against each other, you know? Like you can actually see like Kawhi and Durant, Steph and LeBron, like have to go at it, like guard a pick and roll against each other.
College football rivalries are like insane, but pro football rivalries I do think have had a bad decade. Like I think they've lost a little luster.
Yeah.
AJ,
so you can't when these guys meet up after the game and they exchange jerseys and they're taking pictures with each other and they're all buddy. Get me out of here, man. It's hockey. I'm sorry to be the hockey guy that comes in with the hockey take. It's not usually my shtick, but it's hockey. You feel in a 7-game series, there is a guy, I guarantee you, there is a guy on the other team that you're like, I hate that guy
so much.
Forever.
Yeah.
There will be Avs fans who will never forget the name Will Borgen because of what he got away with in that series that just finished.
A great rivalry will make you hate an entire city the way, like Phoenix to be is this cultureless, like place that shouldn't exist. I'm like,
it's still hockey because they shake hands and you get a classic Dino Ciccarelli quote after Avs Red Wings 96, which obviously is the extreme example.
That's the most extreme
but of his, I can't believe I shook that guy's friggin' hand. Like the hatred doesn't end. One of the things that the players and the coaches didn't like about the Edmonton bubble when they had in the Toronto bubble was that during the postseason, they would see these guys in the elevator after games and be like, I hate that guy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to ride the elevator with this guy.
Here's the advantage,
There's no Jamal Murray taking a picture of Donovan Mitchell hanging out eating food
first of all, they were forced to live together, so it's a little bit different. But they were contained at Disney World.
Well, and it was the same thing for the hockey bubbles where they're all living in the same space.
Yeah, it's a little
and
different.
You see them, but the hockey guys were like, I hate these guys.
You know the difference,
I don't want to see them.
Oh, here's the difference. I think there'd be better rivalries in football and basketball if the guys could literally fight each other during the game. Like if you allowed, like if Jokic could just be like, you know what, I'm having a bad game. Get over here, DeAndre Ayton. Let's just go ahead and duke this one out. I think they would hate each other a little more.
He's the perfect NBA player for that too.
I mean, it's great. It's one of the great things, but fighting isn't as big a deal in hockey anymore. It's reputationally, it's way bigger. But also,
you still get to hit each other too, though. Like,
right, but that's the thing because you can feel that hatred.
Yeah,
because they're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
They're allowed to go out there and they're allowed to smoke each other all series long, especially when this gets later in the series and officials stop calling stuff. The things that you get away. Sam Bennett got away with like wrapping up a dude, hog tying him, and suplexing him in a game last night, and they were like, "It's a $2,500 fine." And now the entire city of Toronto will never forgive Sam Bennett. Never. Hockey rivalries just hit differently because they don't, they go to center ice and they shake each other's hands and they go, oh, great, like, great, whatever, congratulations, we'll see you, whatever. But it doesn't, there's no, like, we're going to change jerseys, we're not going to work out together in the summer. There's none of this stuff. That coziness just isn't there. And it may, you give it a month or whatever and those guys have the same trainer, they'll end up in the same space or whatever. But that love is just not there in the hockey world where you develop that hatred and that thing sticks.
I think part of this is also there's a perfect a lot of money and a perfect a lot of fame in hockey for the guys to still care the way that they do. And people, I think, will be upset about this comment. But I do think that even in the NBA, the money is so much and the fame and opportunities are so much that it's not that they don't deserve it. It's not one of these things. It's just you take a large enough sample, 500 people in the NBA, and you take a large amount of money, inevitably some of them are just going to fall out. They're just not going to care as much. And I do think that that's part of it with some of these rivalries you're talking about. These guys have bigger business together outside the court, that they're same agent. We're all getting money at Nike.
Right.
We're Nike. You see this a lot of like, hey man, that's Adidas fam over there. Like me and him are Adidas. It's like, no, you guys are blood rivals. It's like, no man, that's my guy.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, but
that's why
what
the
can you do,
individual rivalries move it a little more for me. But
yeah.
And the hockey playoff format lends itself a little more, having those interdivisional matchups in the first two rounds. But that's the thing, man. We haven't had like a really great, like Penguins Oilers Penguins Caps, that was really fun.
That was about two superstars that just kept running into each other.
But that's what I'm saying.
You
That's
need a
modern
foil,
rivalries.
you know,
the
like-
last 20 years, the
Yeah.
storylines are
Yeah,
all
you
player
gotta see
driven.
each other a lot, yeah.
We've lost a lot of that, like
Yeah.
team on team real
Yeah.
hate.
You
You know?
look. You ask Avalanche fans who's their biggest rivalry today, and you'll get 5 different answers.
Yeah.
There just isn't. There
Yep.
not one
Yep.
that sticks out, and postseason produces that. I will say, the NBA with the individual stuff, I think could be a lot of fun. Like, look, I relish the idea of like a Miami-Denver final where you're like, it'd be a good time. Like,
Oh, I would love it because the
You
NBA would be
post
like,
that,
"How
like-
did we get here? We had Knicks and Lakers. What happened?"
I know.
I love it because like you
Eat
would
your
have
vegetables,
good.
You
Adam
would get
Silver.
after the Nuggets sweep them too. You get to post that goofy ass picture of them standing outside the locker room,
Oh,
trying to
man,
look
yeah.
so
That's
tough.
the funniest photo
Amazing.
in the history of the NBA. All right, let's move it on. What's our next one? We got 2 more. I'm going to cut the last one, Kel. Would
Dude,
you rather win a
69
championship
thumbs up. Amazing.
with a lovable star or win 2 championships with an unlikable star? The reason I made it this way, because a lot of times you see this question as like not win it. I think winning is always worth it. Would you rather win 1 with the guy that you're like, it's my all-time favorite athlete, I just love the guy, he's a favorite to root for, or win 2, but you're kind of like, yeah, but I just never really liked him?
I mean, man, it's hard to say because it's easy to speak philosophically on a hypothetical like this when in the moment, like sports fans are like addict levels of greedy.
Yeah,
you know, like
yeah.
the second we get one, we're on to the next. We just
Yeah.
want more,
Yeah.
man.
Give me
It's
that
just, like,
again.
satiate my need for wins and championships. None of it's enough. That's like part of what drives us. So it's easy to say, but I do think the first scenario, like the lovable guy you've invested in and bought into, that payoff to win is way more rewarding than some guy you kind of hate, maybe some like journeyman superstar. Like if KD came to the Nuggets
Like the ultimate
and then you
mercenary.
win a couple, like
Well, I would say like this: if you win 1 with Jokic, or I could tell you could trade Jokic for James Harden, and you're going to win 2, and it's like, man, because he averages 28 free throws in the finals.
I kind of want to fight you right now.
I was gonna say, exactly.
Just suggesting it, I'm like, I don't like this.
right.
But it's 2 championships,
Right.
AJ. It's 2 championships.
Look, if I still get one with Jokic, if you're gonna, that's my choice.
You'll do it.
the ratio might be more
Give
like
me
1 to
man.
4.
Just give me 1.
1 to 4.
I mean,
you
it's
need 4
like,
James
right,
Harden
like,
championships.
I'm
to
just,
equal
it's not
one.
multiple titles. It's like, do I want a dynasty? To
Yeah.
accept the dark side, or
Yeah.
There is
Like,
a little
it's
bit
that
of
type
it's
of
about the friends you
dilemma.
make along the
Yeah,
way here.
there you
Because I
go.
mean,
the journey's so
I'm looking
rewarding.
at the wallpaper over here. Eric Johnson lifting a Stanley Cup. Worth.
Yeah.
I don't care how sad it ended for him in Colorado. Worth.
Ooh, somebody I like
journey's
on this has Peyton
rewarding.
Manning versus Big Ben. That's a pretty good example as well. Like, would you rather get one from just the guy that sort of personifies your team, or one that you're kind of like, I gotta overlook some stuff over here. Don't really care for him too much. I don't know.
Right.
I do think, man, Harden stands, and they do exist. Harden stands do have it rough though, man, because there are a lot of like Houston guys that are just big Harden guys, and it's like you really have to put up with a lot of. Just like, man, this guy's not that lovable, man.
Like, it's a different, set of
Even
values.
the drawing
That's
fouls.
for sure, man.
There's just so many games where you're like, it's such a weird brag to be like, oh, he fouled all you guys out. You guys couldn't stop fouling him. It's just a weird.
Got him.
Got him. All right,
It's
our
a
last
really
one, the
different set
title
of
one,
values.
of course, is the big. What was the most satisfying revenge series in Denver sports history? By the way, the last question, because the Suns traded Mikal Bridges, who they loved, Cam Johnson, who they liked a lot, and you get KD,
Yeah,
who's just
yeah.
not theirs. When KD, if he plays there for 4 years, I don't think he's going to retire a Sun.
If he wins a chip,
But he won 2 with the Golden State. I mean, that's the tough thing.
if he brings a chip to Phoenix, he's one of theirs.
Yeah, you're right, because they hadn't done
Does
it.
he
they-
retire
yeah.
as, though, is an interesting question.
It's going to become
Yeah,
a bigger and bigger deal in the future.
He's got 3 more teams to go.
I mean, he does for real. He does for real.
All right, but this one right here.
He laughs. He thinks I'm kidding. He's got 3 more.
Obviously, for us in Denver, it's funny because this series means more, I think, to Denver and Denver fans than it does to Phoenix and Phoenix fans. I think if Denver wins it, especially if they win it in 4 or 5,
Right.
next time around, it's going to mean a lot to the Phoenix fans too. So
Yeah.
this is, but to me, it is very much a revenge series. This one would feel like revenge. But as I was going through, I was thinking about Denver sports history. There's not an awful lot.
Not a
What'd you come up with, AJ? Or I'm sorry, Andre?
I think the one that really stands out above the rest is, being the top team in the AFC in 96. Mike Shanahan's first year, right? It's
second year.
Terrell Davis's breakout season as a rookie, losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars, like an upstart team. They were huge underdogs, and devastating to be like the favorite in the AFC and not even win a game in the postseason.
To me, it was the low point. Part of this was I was 14, so everything prior to that I was young. But part of this was, to me, the low point where I was just like, we're never doing it.
This was my first sports heartbreak, and I didn't know how bad it was.
Yeah.
I didn't know how bad it was as a Broncos fan leading up to this.
Right. Yeah.
And when it happened, like, I still can't get Natron Means, like, out of my brain for the rest of my life. Like, stupid Mark Brunell and Michael Dean Perry.
I know. Don't ask Tom Coughlin. So then getting revenge that next year in the wild card run as they embark on that run to win the first Super Bowl in franchise history was a real cherry on top and a real like revenge game to kind of kick that.
The way it happened too, because it wasn't just, they got revenge. You're talking that it was close at halftime,
right?
And because they had that punt block, return for a touchdown where the punt gets blocked and it lodges. And whatever that guy's name was, it lodges in his arm, and he just runs into the end zone. And you're like, physically, how was that possible? And you're like, this can't be happening again.
It's a little like the Kraken in this ad series.
It was very much an oh my god, what is happening? Yeah. And then they blow the doors off, and I think that game finishes 42-17, and it finished with Terrell Davis and Derek LaVille each had 100 yards rushing. And Von Hebron almost got there too. The clock ran out.
AJ's recall's impressive.
Yeah, it's
like
insane.
Clock ran out before that guy could get there. Otherwise, it would have happened.
Yeah.
Like they bodied them.
Yeah.
And that was what was so cathartic about it. It was like, this is what last year should have been.
Yeah. What else? What else have we come up with?
We've come up with the AFC Championship on their way to Super Bowl 50. They beat the Patriots at Mile High. Patriots kind of the Broncos kind of owned the Patriots, but for
Manning
Peyton
didn't.
Manning, beating Tom Brady, and the defense kind of doing it for him, leading the way.
You know the thing,
is an interesting revenge.
This is the thing about that one is when Manning arrived, you kind of had the like Denver owns the Patriots, Brady owns Manning. Mm-hmm. So which powerful force is more powerful?
But it was also like Manning's Colts owned the Broncos at the time.
So
there was this like weird power structure where it was like, what happens when we combine these elements? And the Broncos went out.
Also beating the Patriots, just always special.
Yeah, glorious.
Beating them in a title game.
And I mean, when you're beating like one of the standard bears of the leagues the past decade to get into the final, that always means something. Yeah. And then we were talking the like regular season beatdown of the Ravens the year after the Raheem Moore Ravens debacle.
Yeah, you go from Hail Mary to 7 touchdowns, and it was just kind of like, this all right, feels better.
But it's like a whooping in the regular season to make up for a much more heartbreaking loss.
Yeah,
the previous postseason.
Dude, if the Nuggets sweep the Suns and then the Suns beat the Nuggets on opening night, and somebody says, "Oh, we got our revenge," I'm like,
exactly
what?
Exactly.
What?
Thank you.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not on the same level, but you are looking at it and you're like, look, you turn the page on the season and you're like, hey, this is what we have now.
Come.
And then I think you go back to the 70s, like the 77 run and beating the Raiders, who had kind of beat up on you for like almost 2 decades.
Yeah,
but,
had absolutely owned your franchise.
77.
Yeah, it's 77.
It's a while ago.
We talked about Nazem Kadri last year, and this is like a rivalry amongst a city, I would say, but it still counts, man. Like that hat trick to me was revenge. It was revenge for commentary from a fan base.
Yeah, I mean the hate trick is great, right? And
the hate trick,
and it's because I mean that's
it's a good one.
It's very cleverly named. Yeah,
perfect.
You're where you are. You're in St. Louis. You're getting death threats after the Binnington stuff in Game 3. It's all Nazem Kadri's fault. He's dirty. He's this and that, and everything under the sun. And the entire city, he's getting all kinds of stuff like extracurricular. It's not hockey anymore. It's racial,
right? And
his wife is posting about it on Instagram, and it's ugly and it's hard to look at. And it's, they've got a police escort to the arena. Like, you're talking about the works here. Like, this is way, way beyond the sport.
Right.
But in the terms of the sport, Nazem Kadri can only control what he can control, and that's going out and playing hockey. And in game 4, he goes out and he drops a hat trick on a team, takes a stranglehold on the series.
It was swag, by the way.
And
a swag heavy game from him. It wasn't just like an ugly hat trick. It was a swaggy one.
It was. I mean, all 3 goals are skill goals.
Yep.
And
they were badass. It just felt like a guy rising to a moment to be like, and then you're not going to get to me. I'm going to get to you.
The third one is not like you're like, this is over. This game is done. Kadri gets it. He does the hat. So he throws the hat in celebration as he goes to the wall, and he knows it. The city knows it. And it was like anybody but that guy. When you're in one of those anybody but that guy situations, and that's the guy that beats you, it's the worst feeling in the world. And Kadri doing that to St. Louis last year, that's why the arch is still in my backyard.
There you go. I love it.
It's my arch until St. Louis does something to earn it back. It's still my arch.
It's great.
They can come and visit it at any point. The one that's still there is a hologram. I left them something because that's their whole identity. That and toasted ravioli, which I won't take from them, but I'll make. It's delicious. But the arch is in my backyard, safekeeping.
I love it. The only other one that we thought of, and it might actually in some ways be the best one, Carmelo Anthony leaving Denver just because he didn't want to be here and never winning again. The only win he has, I believe, against Denver, came in the playoffs. Nuggets won the series, but they got one game in Denver in the playoffs when he was with Portland in a bit role. But he went 10 years without getting a single regular season win, a single playoff, any of that. And then he ends up getting one in a playoffs that Denver won anyway. So to me, that's so incredible to think that Carmelo has never once, since leaving Pepsi Center at the time, has never once gone in there in the regular season and won a game. To me, that's like incredible.
Yeah, somebody did ask about Avs Red Wings, that rivalry, and I'm not really including it in a revenge game or series because that went back and forth, and the 2 best moments of revenge, I guess, both belonged to Detroit.
Right.
So it was Colorado had to eat the wrong end of that rivalry.
And we were talking about like old division rivals like the Stars, Blackhawks,
stuff like
Wild.
that.
If anything, we still need revenge on those moments.
There is an inadequate amount of proper revenge against Dallas and Minnesota, both in the postseason.
The Melo one's an interesting one, but again, it's more an individual player.
Yeah, and I mean it's individual player, but it's against the whole. Like I still hate Melo, and it was because
you do. Will you ever like him again?
Does he want?
Yeah.
Does he want to come back and be embraced by the fans?
No, I mean
because I think if that's important to him, I can get there. But if he's like, no, I'm cool, I don't need them. F you, man.
Yeah.
You snubbed us one day. He could have been what Jokic is. He could have been the king of Denver. He could have been the king of Nuggets basketball. Now, I don't know that I don't know that he would have the team success, whatever. But he had that on his plate, and he chose. He just said, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And fair enough. We all want what we want in life. He's allowed to feel that way, but I'm also allowed to say, all right, then get out.
Yeah.
Go enjoy a nothing career the rest of your career.
Well, there he is. I'll forgive him when it's all said and done. I'm ready to mend the fence.
If he wants to come back, man, I'll embrace that. I would be open to that.
Yeah.
But that has to be a two-way street.
You know what? I want to see. I want to see Melo wearing a Joker jersey.
Oh.
You know what? Wearing a Joker jersey, mending the fence. You know what? 15's not mine anymore. It's ours.
No, and I'll tell you what. If they make the NBA Finals this year, and that dude shows up to an NBA Final game courtside wearing a Jokic jersey, he's in forever.
There you
go. Melo, that's your path.
What you gotta do.
That's your path, Melo.
He's in for
take
he's
it.
in forever.
Do the right thing.
He comes back. He comes back like that. We're good, man. But until he wants to mend that fence, I've lived most of my adult life with a broken fence. It's all good.
Yeah. There you go. You had it. You heard it here, Melo. You want our love and affection? Come grovel at our feet, and we might grant it to you.
That's right.
That's all it takes. Guys, you were a great panel.
You mean to tell me if that dude showed up before game 1 of the NBA Finals and he's wearing a Jokic jersey and they put him up on the Jumbotron, you think he'd get booed?
Yeah.
You really think he'd get booed?
Yeah. he would need to do some PR work before that.
I think if he made a thing, he'd
have to come do with an interview. He'd have to have some quotes. He'd have to be like, Joker's my favorite team. Those fans, I'll never forget. He'd have to even BS a little of, I do regret it. He doesn't have to believe it, but, I do always wonder.
This is what I'm saying. He has to want that, though.
Yeah.
He'd have to want something, and I would love that. I think I'd be all about that, and I'd be like, welcome home, man.
There you go. He's not going to do that, though. He's not going to do that. It's all good,
Athletes versus common sense, full circle.
There it is. He's AJ Haefele. Check him out on the Avs podcast. Andre's always making money for us on the Bets pod. And then I'm covering the Nuggets tonight. Game 3, second round. Big one, baby.
It's time.
Big game. I'm going to be right back in this chair in just a couple hours. Everybody hit the like button for us. Thanks for hanging out on the Denver Sports Podcast.